You ever stop and think, what's the one thing that really makes custom PC building possible? I mean, when you get right down to it, it's not your fancy CPU or the latest graphics card. Nope, it's a single, often forgotten standard that has been the quiet bedrock of the industry for almost 30 years. Today, we're going to talk about the unsung hero in your machine, ATX. Now, to really get why ATX was such a massive deal, you've got to travel back in time with me. Picture the world of PC building before 1995. It was the Wild West. Total chaos. You had all these proprietary designs, parts weren't interchangeable, and putting a computer together was this frustrating and sometimes, honestly, dangerous puzzle. I mean, the old AT standard, it was a total nightmare for builders. You had these two power connectors for the motherboard that looked almost identical. If you mix them up, poof, you'd instantly fry your board. Gone. And connecting your serial port or your parallel port, you had to deal with these messy internal ribbon cables called flying leads that you had to snake through the case. And don't even get me started on swapping a motherboard into a different case. Good luck getting anything to line up. But then, 1995 happened. Everything changed. Intel, the biggest name in the game, stepped in and dropped a brand new specification that promised to bring some serious order to all of that chaos. They called it ATX, which stands for Advanced Technology Extended. But really, it was more than just a name. This was a universal blueprint, a rule book for everyone. It laid out everything, the exact dimensions of the motherboard, where the screw holes go, even how the power supply was supposed to work. For the very first time, all the different companies, all the competitors, were playing by the same set of rules. And this new blueprint, it basically boiled down to three huge history-making changes. First, it standardized the motherboard layout. Second, it introduced the I/O shield, that little metal plate on the back, which finally got rid of those awful flying leads. And third, it completely reinvented the power supply to be way smarter and a whole lot safer. Okay, let's talk about that power supply first, because this was huge. The new 20-pin ATX connector was a total game changer. Unlike those old, scary plugs, this one was keyed. It was physically shaped so it could only go in one way, the right way. And just like that, the risk of accidentally killing your motherboard with one simple mistake was just gone. ATX also brought us something we literally don't even think about anymore: soft power. So thanks to a new standby power signal, the motherboard could actually talk to the power supply. This meant, for the first time ever, you could go to your start menu, click shut down, and the computer would actually turn itself all the way off. No more flipping a big physical switch. So ATX cleaned up the chaos from the early days, right? But it wasn't long before a brand new challenge popped up, and this one was relentless. The never-ending quest for more and more power. As our components got more powerful, man, did they get hungry. And in this part of the story, there's a clear hero. It's the plus 12-volt rail. This thing would become the absolute backbone of any modern power supply. You see, here's how it worked back then. Early PCs, they mostly used the 5-volt and 3.3-volt rails. But as CPUs and graphics cards started demanding hundreds of watts of power, it just became way more efficient to send all that juice over the higher voltage 12-volt rail and then let the motherboard convert it down right next to the component that needed it. And you can literally see this whole power evolution just by looking at the connectors. Back in '95, the original connector was all about 5 volts. But then, fast forward to 2000, and the super hungry Pentium 4 processor needed more, so we got a dedicated 4-pin 12-volt connector just for the CPU. By 2003, with PCI Express cards arriving, the main connector grew to 24 pins for even more power. This just shows how the standard has kept evolving, all the way up to 2022, when ATX 3.0 gave us a new connector that can pump an insane 600 watts to a single graphics card. But, here's the really brilliant thing about all this. All this standardization, it didn't box everyone in. Nope. It did the exact opposite. It created this amazing, flexible ecosystem where the same core design rules could be used for parts of all different shapes and sizes. So you've got your standard ATX, which is pretty much the gold standard for most builds. But hey, what if you want a tiny little media PC for your living room? Well, there's a mini ATX board for that, and it shares the same basic design. Building on a budget? microATX is your friend. And if you're going all out with a monster workstation, there's the huge EATX. See, it's one big, happy, compatible family. So all of this brings us to the million-dollar question, right? Why is a standard that was designed back in 1995 still running the show? I mean, in the tech world, that's ancient. Why hasn't something better come along and replaced it? Well, you're not going to believe this, but something did try, and it was Intel themselves. In 2004, they introduced a successor called BTX. It promised better cooling, a more modern layout. It was supposed to be the next big thing. But the entire industry, all the case makers, motherboard companies, power supply manufacturers, they had already built their entire world around ATX. The ecosystem was just too strong. BTX never caught on, and Intel gave up on it just 2 years later. ATX was so good, it literally beat its own replacement. So when you boil it all down, the legacy of ATX is just massive. By creating that single universal standard, it created a market where companies have to compete, which gives us all these amazing choices. It took PC building from this risky, niche hobby and made it safe and easy enough for millions of people to do. And most importantly, it was so well designed and so flexible that it's been the foundation of our PCs for nearly 3 decades. So yeah, the next time you crack open your PC case, just take a second to look at that motherboard and think about the humble, elegant standard that holds it all together. It really is a masterpiece of design. Which leaves us with one final nagging thought. After all this time, after 3 whole decades, what on earth is it going to take to finally replace the king?